10 years ago, Gotham City witnessed the emergence of the mysterious vigilante known as the Batman. Fast forward 10 years later, he's gone and nowhere to be found. However, he left a powerful impact, having significantly reduced crime all across the city, and battled some of the most bizarre yet truly evil individuals out there. But yet, there remains an ambiguous and more mysterious side to the vigilante. Welcome to Gotham Sightings. I'm your host, Jack Ryder, and in this YouTube series, I will be sharing with you the many unique and shocking stories sent in by Gothamites of all backgrounds of the caped crime fighter and his exploits in the city. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. For my own safety and privacy, I won't give my real name, so call me Arnie. I'm a cop with the GCPD. This happened when I was 26, before I joined the force. It was 1999 and I was jobless and without a home. I won't go into the details of how I got there. It's not worth revisiting. I was living under the Gotham freeway, specifically in a homeless camp in Hobbs Oven, one of the worst districts in Gotham, next to the Narrows, quite literally. There were a decent many of us, but some were drug addicts and some only cared about themselves. There wasn't much of a camp spirit, so everyone just minded their own business and stayed in their respective parts. I was living with another guy I had made friends with. Peter was his name. He was born triple jointed, so he could contort his body in really fucked up ways. But he was a funny guy and not bad company, so it didn't really bother me. He told me that he ran away from a traveling circus when it was passing through Gotham at one point, then found his way to the camp, and that's how we met. Our tent was nestled in the farthest corner of the camp, near the street, which connected into the rest of the district. There was an auto repair shop across the street called Benny's Autos, and Benny would always give us some money when he could. He looked out for the people in the camp as best he could, really. At this point, Hobbs Oven was run by the Valestra mob. They held the area tight and were constantly squeezing money out of the local businesses. Benny had to pay for so-called protection. At the end of each week, me and Peter would see Valestra's thugs come to Benny's shop and take what they were owed, as well as a little something for themselves. Benny hated doing it, and one day he refused. When he told Valestra's men they were not in a good mood, they surprisingly gave him till the end of the night to cough up the money, as they had some other important business to take care of elsewhere. But Benny told them they would get nothing, and that he was sick of them taking from the people. He called them vultures. The men warned him what would happen next. Me and Peter spoke with Benny and asked what he was going to do. He told us not to worry, that he was going to stick it to him. He'd had enough. He told us to stay away come nightfall and then closed up his shop and went inside. Peter called him a dead man and went to another homeless camp not too far from where we were, so he could avoid any trouble. I chose to stay. I wanted to help Benny, but with being homeless, I couldn't exactly call the police. Not that they would involve themselves in Valestra business anyway. The GCPD was heavily corrupt at this time. Everybody knew it. Now, Batman did cross my mind. Maybe he could help, but from what I had heard, from people passing by and others in my camp, it was essentially just rumors and superstition. He was an urban legend, and nobody really knew if he existed at all. At the time, I thought myself a fool for thinking I could find him and get help, but little did I know what would happen next. When night came, Valestra's men showed up. There were 4 of them, all in dark suits. They brought 2 massive fucking bulldogs with them. I knew Benny was in a lot of danger, and I wanted to help him. There was no one else around who gave a shit, both in the street and the camp. Just me. The men went inside. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but after a few moments I saw Benny get tossed into this courtyard where he would keep the cars he was fixing. The 2 who didn't have the dogs started kicking him, damning his name for not paying up. Benny screamed, and when I heard that, I rushed over to the fence that outlined the courtyard. I couldn't take him being in pain. I shouted to the men to leave him alone. One of the men pulled a gun on me, told me to come into the courtyard or Benny would get popped. I went inside through the main entrance and then out into the courtyard. The dogs were barking at me non-stop. I remember what the man with the gun said to me. "You shouldn't have stuck your nose into this, rat. Now you're going to watch your friend get turned into tiny little pieces. Then you'll learn not to interfere." He told the two guys with the dogs to get them ready for supper, as he put it. He had the last guy grab me and force me to watch what was about to happen. My heart was pounding. I was sweating all over, and those damn dogs would not stop barking. They were desperate to start eating. I saw Benny's bloody face look up at me. He said that he was sorry, and then the man with the gun interrupted. He said, "Sal Valestra sends his regards, you fucking schmuck." Then he ordered the men to let loose the dogs. But suddenly this black mass fell from the sky, landing on a van near the corner of the courtyard. It was him, Batman, and I couldn't believe my eyes. He was tall, and his cape swayed gently in the wind. I could hardly make out a person. He was just pure black, and those horns made him more animal than man. He spoke, "Let them go," then leapt off the van and spoke again. "Now." The mobsters were perplexed, unsure what to make of him, but the man with the gun turned to the men with the dogs. "You heard him, boys. Let them loose." The two men released the chains from the bulldogs. The beasts charged at Batman, but then something flew from his hands. Little dart things. One of them hit a dog in its leg, causing it to trip and fall, but missed the other. The remaining bulldog pounced on Batman, biting his arm. It spit, spewing from its mouth as it gnawed down on his flesh. But with force, Batman slammed the dog into the side of the van, knocking it out cold. It fell off his arm, dropping to the ground. "You son of a bitch," roared one of the thugs who had one of the dogs. He drew his gun and pointed it toward Batman, but before he could fire, there was a bang and a huge puff of smoke. I couldn't see anything. I actually tripped and fell to the ground, trying to get my bearings. All around me I could hear screams and grunts, the occasional sound of bones cracking. The smoke eventually began to clear, and as it did, it revealed what happened to the mobsters. They were all over the courtyard. The two dog handlers were lying against the fence out cold, their heads bleeding. Another was on top of a car hood, again out cold. And the man who pulled his gun on me was face down on the ground, definitely out cold. But where was he? Where was the Batman? I looked to my side and saw that he was actually tending to Benny, helping him up and making sure he was okay. He looked towards me, and after he helped Benny up, he reached his hand out for me. I instantly took it, and he pulled me up. I said to him that I didn't think he was real, but I thanked him. Benny also thanked him. He looked at Benny and told him to call the police, and that he should lay low for a while, and that he's making Valestra a priority. Benny went inside to make the call, and as I watched him and then turned back, Batman was gone, just like that. About a few weeks later, Batman brought in Valestra. Apparently he was found hanging by his tie from a ceiling fan inside the commissioner's office in the GCPD HQ. Along with a bunch of evidence to put him away for a long time. Benny thanked me for stepping in that night, but he closed up his shop and left Gotham. He said as much as he was pleased to see Valestra behind bars, he was tired of the city and wanted to live somewhere less dangerous. As for me, I decided I didn't want to be homeless anymore. I wanted a job and a new life, and I had the perfect idea. 2 years later, I proudly joined the Gotham City Police Department, and it was Batman that inspired me to do so. The idea of helping those in need spoke to me, and I wanted to make a difference. To Batman, wherever you are, I say thank you. Wow, what a story. Who let the dogs out, huh? Was that in poor taste? Well, it was 9 years ago, so I think I'm off the hook. I've passed through Hobbs Oven a few times, and it is quite the dilapidated area. Easy for the likes of the Valestra mob to exploit, or any other criminal group, really. As a rule of thumb, if you do happen to go into Hobbs Oven, always lock your car and never leave valuables inside it. Speaking from experience, I do hear that the city has condemned parts of Hobbs Oven recently, but the decision is facing backlash from community activists, most notably Teresa Williams, who has pitched the creation of decent, low to moderate income co-ops and apartments to replace the condemned areas. But we're not here to talk about local politics, are we? This has been Gotham Sightings with your host, Jack Ryder. Thank you for watching, and stay safe out there.